these are some of the measures that the government has recently taken or has taken over a period of time to ensure that our capital account convertibility is relaxed. Okay. So moving on to the most important concept of this entire session. Okay. It is CAD, that is current account deficit. Now what is current account deficit? As I said, what is current account I explained to you earlier. It includes import-export, it includes education loans, it includes tourism, it includes remittances. Okay. So current account deficit, the word itself says that the imports are higher than the exports. That is, we spend more dollars than we earn. Okay. Now, how is that a problem? Okay. First, I will explain to you why it is happening in India. Then I will explain to you what is the problem of current account deficit. Okay. Now, why is this situation happening in India, that India is importing more of goods than exporting? Okay. Firstly, because we import 80% of our oil requirements. Okay. India is a developing country. India is a growing country. It requires oil. It requires energy. Oil, gas. These are the forms of energy. It requires these energies. Okay. Desperately. And we import 80% of our demands from abroad. Okay. The second is, India is called a gold hungry nation. Indians are called gold hungry because we import the largest amount of gold in the world. Okay. So import export wise, India imports maximum amount of oil, gold. India also imports capital machineries, heavy machineries. Machineries that are used in heavy industries like steel or maybe aluminium or fertilizer plants or turbines. These machineries are not just produced in India and it has to import them. Capital. Now, let us keep the gold and capital machinery aside. Oil. Let's just take oil for example. Oil prices are not determined by India. India cannot bargain with OPEC nations or nations, the syndicates of nations who export oil. Okay. So India has to buy oil at whatever cost is given to it. Okay. At whatever cost they give you, you have to buy oil. Okay. So that is why we cannot work on that to a large extent. Now talking about gold. Yes, I'll come to how India tried to curb later on, but first I'll go through what all we import and export, major differences. Why there are major differences in our current account. Okay. Now exports, what does India mainly export? India mainly exports engineering goods, small scale engineering goods. India mainly exports agricultural goods. India mainly exports mining products. Okay. Now in the year 2012 to 2013, there was an exponential rise in our CAD. Why did this rise take place? Is because the oil prices increased across the world. Okay. And our mining sector was not growing. India's mining sector, the Balalnce case or the Goa case, the Supreme Court had banned Karnataka or Goa or any other state to export iron ore. So our exports reduced. Okay. And our import prices increased because of oil. So this led to a large amount of current account deficit. Okay. Now, what are the problems that we face because of current account deficits? Okay. So imagine these four sectors. Okay, that is import, export, education, tourism, remittances. Now, if we don't have enough foreign reserves, then how can we provide loans to our students to go abroad? How can we promote tourism to go abroad? It is not just affecting these things, it will also affect our, trade. How will you provide money to our private sector or our companies to import the capital goods? Okay. So what happens basically when there is current account deficit? The forex reserve of the company goes down, and because of that, forex reserve becomes cheap, very precious. Like dollars will be given at a higher rate of interest. So the loans that are taken by students going abroad, or the money that is spent, or this thing that is used will increase. Okay. And the biggest problem that will happen is India's rupee will depreciate with regard to dollar. Okay. Now I'll explain you what is depreciation and appreciation before how CAD affects it. Okay. Now imagine there is $1. Okay. Suppose it is costing you today 60 rupees. Okay. Now, if the number of dollars that are there in the market reduce, okay. Imagine there were first $100 in the market, and today there are just $50 in the market. So the cost per dollar, the cost of $1 in rupees will also increase. Because the demand, there is a reduction in supply, so there will always be an increase in the demand rate. Okay. So what will happen is, now 65 rupees will give you $1. Okay. So $1 used to cost you 60 rupees, but now the number of dollars in the market has reduced. So $1 will cost you 65 rupees. Now how will this affect these things? Okay, what will happen is, imagine a kid, a boy or a child is going abroad for education. Now he has taken a loan of $1,000. Okay, this $1,000 he will pay off in a year, but at the time when he took the loan, it was for 60 rupees. So it cost him around 60,000 rupees. But today, the cost of the dollar is 65, so it will cost him $65,000, 65,000 rupees, sorry. So eventually the cost of his loan will go up. Likewise, you are talking about this thing as well, import-export. When you are importing something at 100 rupees, suddenly the cost $100. So the initial cost was $6,000, 6,000 rupees, sorry, 6,000 rupees. But now the cost has gone up to 65. So it will now cost you 6,500 rupees. Okay. So this is called as depreciation. Okay. Where the cost of rupee is increasing to the cost of dollar. So depreciation is where the value of that currency decreases. Okay. But imagine there are more dollars in the market. Suddenly there are more dollars in the market. So there is a rise in supply. So obviously the cost will again go down. So now a dollar will cost you 55 rupees. Okay. So again, if you can try to connect these things together, the cost of the kid's loan, the child's loan will go down. The cost of the import prices will go down. So the economy will grow. But that is a different case. It will not grow. I'll explain why we try to keep the dollar, rupee at a lower rate. But that is a different method. So this the price of the rupee has reduced compared to the dollar. Okay. So now the value of rupee has appreciated. Okay. This is called as appreciation. Okay. when the value of a currency increases in comparison to a dollar, it is called as appreciation. And when the value of the currency decreases in comparison to dollar, it is called as depreciation. Okay, why am I talking just dollars? You can also compare it to pounds or yens, but I am just taking dollars for example because it is easier to explain it that way. Okay. So now what the government is trying to do, okay, so this is what happens if there is less amount of dollars in the market. Okay. So now what did the government try to do to reduce this thing? Now their imports, exports. Imports that were causing us harm were oil, gold, okay, capital goods, and exports that were causing us harm were mining, agri, okay, so on and so forth. So what the government did is, firstly, because to reduce the amount of gold that is imported, it increased the import duties of gold. Okay. It increased the import duties of gold so that gold becomes expensive and people are discouraged to buy gold. Oil. What did it do? Oil was a subsidized thing in India. Oil as in diesel, petrol, they were subsidized in India. Petrol wasn't, diesel is still. So what the government started doing, it started reducing the subsidies. What will happen when the government starts reducing subsidies? The rate of oil will go up. The rate of diesel will go up. Since the rate of diesel has gone up, people will reduce, consume it less, so consumption will go down. Okay. And this will eventually reduce our imports of oil. What happens is rate increases, rate of diesel increases. That is what is happening at this moment in 2014. The rate of diesel has increased, so people have started, less usage of diesel. So our imports of oil have also decreased. So these are the two measures that the government has taken recently, to reduce our cap. And mining sector, again the government has started exporting mining sector, exporting minerals. So our mining sector is growing, our mineral exports are growing, and that has resulted in more foreign exchange earnings. Okay. Now India does not just get, as I said earlier, India does not just get its foreign reserves only from exports, it also gets it from remittances. So what is the other method that the government is using? What the government has done is it gives incentives to NRIs to invest in India. As in, first, it has started encouraging for QFIs, that is qualified institutional investors, to invest in India. That is, a person like you and me who's staying abroad can invest in the Indian economy through stock market. It has also increased the, what do you say? Okay. So this is one of this thing, and there are other examples as well, but I'll not go deeper into them because there are a lot of factors that the government has done to increase its foreign earnings. It has increased the account interest rate. So if you are an NRI and investing in dollars in any Indian bank, you are depositing your money in dollars, you will get a different interest rate that is higher than you will get on rupees. Such other incentives are there that the government is using. Okay. So this was CAD. Okay. Now I will move on to, as I explained earlier about depreciation and appreciation. Okay. Now depreciation and appreciation happened Why did it happen? Because of market forces. What are the market forces that determined it? Number of dollars increased. It led to less demand of dollars. It led to increase in the cost of rupee. Okay. Now number of dollars decrease leads to more cost of dollars. It leads to less cost of rupees. Okay. This now happened through market forces. Okay. So now I want to come to the point of how are exchange rates determined. Okay. Currently the exchange rate is around 58 rupees to a dollar. So how is it determined? Okay. Most of the developed countries use this market forces formula. Okay. Like United States, you can talk about UK, you can talk about most of the Western countries, Western Europe, then you can talk about Japan. These countries use, these developed countries use this market-based formula. Okay. This is called as a floating exchange rate. Okay. Now this is a floating exchange rate. Now, what is, India follows a dirty float. Now what is a dirty float? Okay. It uses the same principles as this. That is when the cost of dollars increase leads to less cost of dollars, leads to more cost of rupees. Okay. If dollars decrease, it leads to more cost of dollars, leads to less cost of rupee. India uses the same principle, but it uses this principle in a band. What happens is, there is a certain band set now. Imagine the band is from rupees 55 to 65, or maybe let's just take 62. Okay. So if the rupee value goes lesser than 55, that is the rupee value appreciates more, more than 55, then also the government controls it. And if it exceeds 62, that is it goes beyond it depreciates more than 62, then also the government controls it. Now government, when I say government, I am talking about Reserve Bank of India, not the government of India. Because Reserve Bank of India is the, you can say, it actually controls the amount of foreign reserve that goes into an economy or comes out of it. Okay. It holds the government's forex reserves. Okay. So how does it control this thing? Okay. So if the rupee is going, as in falling beyond 55, okay. If the rupee value to a dollar is 54 suddenly, let's just say. Okay. So what the government will do is, what happens? Why has the value gone to 54? It means that the number of dollars in the market are more, more compared to rupee. So what the RBI will do is, it will absorb these dollars through a policy called as sterilization. What happens in sterilization is, the government gives, the RBI launches market stabilization bonds, and common persons like you and me can buy these bonds, or institutional investors can buy these bonds by giving dollars to the RBI. So these are dollars, these are foreign exchange bonds. So by using that, it absorbs the amount of dollars that are there in the economy. Okay? And thus bringing the rate back in the bandwidth of 55 to 62. Okay. But if the value of rupee goes beyond 62, what does it mean? Is the number of dollars in the economy is less. That the economy is deficient in the amount of dollars. So at that time, the Reserve Bank of India will infuse dollars into the economy, bringing the rupee back into the bandwidth of 52 to 62, 55 to 62. And how will that happen is, when the Reserve Bank of India infuses dollars into the economy, the number of dollars in the economy again go up, again the value of dollar goes down and the value of rupee again comes up. Okay. So this is what happens. So this is called as a dirty float. Okay. Now there are certain fixed exchange rates, like in India prior to 1990 or 1992 you can say. India had a fixed exchange rate that was determined by the government of India. Okay. Then there is the pegged system. What is the pegged system? Currency is pegged to the international hard currency like dollar. Okay. So if there is a country, okay, you can China is a good example of pegged system. What happens in the pegged system? Yeah, what happens in a pegged system is China's yuan, okay, is connected to the dollar. So if the value of dollar goes up, the yuan goes up. The value of dollar goes down, the yuan goes down. This is called as the pegged system. Okay. Now these are some of the types of systems that I use. Okay. But now I want to come to one last point of this entire discussion or this entire session. Okay. And that is, what is the importance, how does the value of rupee appreciating or depreciating influence our imports and exports? Or how does it influence our economy as well? So I'll come to that. First is, okay, imagine the value of rupee goes down, as in $1 is costing me 65 rupees. So what happens in this is, an investor from outside has to invest 65 rupees. Okay, he has to invest 1 rupee. Imagine if this pen is costing $1. Okay. This pen is costing $1 to be manufactured in United States of America. But when he invests that $1 in India, it becomes 65 rupees. Okay. And I'm sure the value of manufacturing this pen in India is lesser than 65. Imagine if the value of manufacturing this pen is around 30 rupees in India. So he can manufacture those 2 pens in India, whereas he can only manufacture 1 pen in the United States. Okay. So this is how our rupee being lesser compared to the dollar is helping our economy. This is the principle on which most of the exports through India are working. We can talk about the service sector. Let's just talk about the IT sector or the information technology sector. What happens is, a person that is employed in the United States of America has to be paid, an engineer, okay, software engineer, has to be paid around $8,000 monthly. Okay. Now multiply these $8,000 by the account, let's just say 60 over here. Okay. Let's multiply this by 60. Okay. So that comes to what? 48,000 rupees? No. Yeah, 48,000. Yeah, oh sorry. I'll correct myself. It comes to around 4,08,000 rupees a month. 4,80,000 rupees a month. Okay. So now, rather than paying $8,000 to an employee in United States of America, why not just pay 25,000 rupees to an Indian employee? That is the average salary of an Indian IT sector programmer. So divide this by 60. What? This comes around what? $400 to $500. 400 to, no, not even 400 to 500. Yeah, $400 to $500. So the American company is just spending $400 by hiring a person in India than spending $8,000 minimum by hiring a person in United States of America. Okay. So this is why this is what I'm talking about, the service sector. This also happens in the secondary sector or the manufacturing sector which is happening in China. That is why most of the production or manufacturing is happening in China. Okay. So this is the philosophy on which we are gaining. So it's a win-win situation for both. The companies in the United States or the companies in the Western developed countries are gaining from this. They are saving money, and the companies in India are also gaining from this, because we are getting employment, and our people are at least getting $25,000, which is a huge amount in India compared to the prior 1990 money that people used to get. So this is how the appreciation and depreciation works. The rupee appreciation and depreciation works on our economy. So for this exact reason, we use dirty float so that we can control control our exchange rate to a large extent. So there is a difference between. Okay, so this is the concept. Now I want to explain you something more. There is a difference between depreciation and devaluation. Okay, in depreciation, both of them use the same philosophy. That is, the value of rupee will go down compared to the dollar. So if $1 will be around, if it was 60 rupees, it will cost you 65. But what happens basically in this is, in depreciation, the market forces do this. That is, the supply and demand depends on that. The value changes because of the supply and demand. Whereas in devaluation, the government deliberately reduces the value of rupee. Okay. So this is the difference between the two. Now with this, I end my balance of payment session. As in my session, balance of payments of India has been completed. Okay. I hope you've understood everything, and if you haven't, then please log on to www.m2keducation.com or call me on 922-184-9650. Okay.